Our group project is on the movie The Insider. Our group consists of Andrea Stewart, Robbie Hedger, and myself, Brittany Borghese. Next, we'll view the movie trailer for The Insider.
They're afraid of you, aren't they? They should be.
The following is a sneak preview of the best reviewed film of the year. An insider ready to speak the truth.
And I want to go on the record.
A reporter who will help him reveal it.
What does this guy have to say that threatens these people?
Together,
I was told, don't talk. Who is this?
they will risk everything. Because where there's smoke, there's fire. Al Pacino.
He's only the key witness in the biggest public issue in history. Does he go on television and tell the truth? Yes. Are we gonna air it? Of course not. Why? Because the more truth he tells, the worse it gets.
Russell Crowe.
I have to put my family's welfare on the line. My girls are crying. My children need me. You wish you hadn't come forward? You wish you hadn't blown the whistle?
The movie critics call deeply moving.
I fought for you and I still fight.
A powerful edge-of-your-seat thriller. It will pin you to your seat. The best film of the year. Nominated for 5 Golden Globes.
You go public, nothing will ever be the same again.
There's Dad on TV.
The Insider. A Michael Mann film.
Some movie statistics. The movie was directed by Michael Mann, produced by Peter Jan Brugge and Michael Mann, written by Eric Roth and Michael Mann. The movie starred Al Pacino, Russell Crowe, Christopher Plummer, Diane Venora, and Michael Gambon. The music in the movie was by Lisa Garand and Peter Burke. The cinematography was by Dante Spinati. The movie was edited by William Goldenberg, Paul Rubel, and David Rosenblum. The movie was distributed by Buena Vista Pictures Distribution. The release date was November 5th, 1999. The running time was 157 minutes long. The movie was released in the United States. English was the main language in the movie. The budget was $90 million, and the box office fell a little short, and it was unexpected at $60.3 million. Some movie facts about The Insider. The Insider is based on a true story, and it is based off of an article in Vanity Fair magazine. The Insider was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Actor in a Leading Role, which involved Russell Crowe. The movie was reported in Louisville, Kentucky, where Brown & Williamson Tobacco Company is located and is still located today. The Insider was released in 1,844 theaters. On opening weekend, The Insider grossed a total of $6,712,361, and it ranked 4th in the country for that time period. The courtroom where Jeffrey Wigand gave his disposition is not a set. The filmmakers used the actual courtroom in Jackson County, Mississippi, where the real Wigand's deposition was given.
Main characters. Jeffrey Wigand, played by Russell Crowe, was the former head of research and a research scientist for Brown & Williamson, a big tobacco company. Lowell Bergman, played by Al Pacino, was a reputable journalist for CBS. He is forced to put his job and reputation in jeopardy to release a groundbreaking 60 Minutes interview. Thomas Sandifer, played by Michael Gambon, was the CEO of Brown and Williamson Tobacco Company. He, amongst 6 other top tobacco company CEOs, testified in court that they did not believe nicotine was addictive. Leanne Wygand, played by Diane Venora, was the wife to Jeffrey Wygand. Mike Wallace, played by Christopher Plummer, was a journalist for CBS that worked closely with Lyle Bergman and was Jeffrey Wygand's interviewer. Other characters: Sharon Tiller, played by Lindsay Krause, was Lyle Bergman's wife. Debbie DeLuca, played by Debbie Mazar, was Lyle Bergman's assistant at CBS News. Eric Cluster, played by Stephen Tobolowsky, was the president of CBS News. Richard Scruggs, played by Colm Feore, was a lawyer for the state of Mississippi. He was part of a lawsuit that the state of Mississippi had filed against Big Tobacco. Ron Motley, played by Bruce McGill, was a trial attorney for the state of Mississippi that led the deposition of Jeffrey Wygand. Helen Caparelli, played by Gina Gershon, was the general counsel of CBS News. Philip Baker Hall, played by Don Hewitt. He was an executive producer for CBS News.
Movie summary. Jeffrey Wygand is a former tobacco company research scientist. After being fired from Brown and Williamson, Jeffrey is sought out by CBS 60 Minutes producer Lyle Bergman. Bergman tries to get Jeffrey to talk and air a session with CBS, but he is hesitant, especially after signing a confidentiality agreement to keep the benefits the company gave in lieu of the termination. Wygand battles his obligation for the safety of himself, his wife, and 2 daughters versus the responsibility he feels to inform the public of his scope of work and its results at Brown and Williamson. Despite people trespassing, suspicious phone calls, and even death threats, Wygand decides to take part in the CBS special even against the judgment of his wife, Leanne. After returning home from an out-of-state testimony as him serving as a key witness about an outside lawsuit against Big Tobacco, Jeffrey finds his wife and kids have all left as they have fled for their well-being. Being so far into the process, Jeffrey continues to be interviewed and helps develop the 60 Minutes episode with the developers. Weeks before the 60 Minutes episode is about to air, CBS executives shift focus on the fear of tortious interference. Simply, CBS was trying to get Wygand to break the confidentiality agreement he signed with Brown and Williamson because it could put them at great risk for a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit. Bergman disagrees with this and speculates that executives fear a lawsuit may harm their own interest in the sale of CBS to Westinghouse. After an edited version of the full interview with Jeffrey airs, Bergman feels defeated and Wygand is devastated. Bergman contacts the New York Times and they release an article that reveals the scandals that occurred within CBS. In addition, the Wall Street Journal releases an article that builds Wygand's reputation back after Big Tobacco's smear campaign nearly destroyed his reputation. Finally, CBS airs the full interview a while later. Bergman quits CBS to pursue a less broken company and starts work at a PBS television show, and he becomes a professor at Berkeley. The ethical theories in The Insider, our group decided that a couple ethical theories were integrity, transparency, and fidelity. Our first ethical theory is integrity, which integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. Integrity means telling the truth even if the truth is ugly. Integrity is doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Integrity is important in business because honesty and integrity are the foundations of leadership. And we inserted a little quote here. It says, integrity is choosing your thoughts and actions based on values rather than personal gain. So some of the ethical issues related to integrity in the movie The Insider are Brown and Williamson Tobacco Company lied about the contents in cigarettes, especially nicotine. Brown and Williamson Tobacco Company failed to mention that there was an added substance in cigarettes that made cigarettes highly addictive. Furthermore, Brown and Williamson Tobacco Company stated in front of Congress that nicotine was not an addictive substance. Brown and Williamson Tobacco Company failed to mention these things because their personal gain would have declined. The company hurt others to gain more profit from tobacco sales. Next is a short clip on the integrity dilemma in the movie The Insider.
Like to have this correct.
I believe that nicotine is not addictive.
I do believe
They referred to this, the seven dwarfs, the seven CEO of Big Tobacco referred to this, said they should be afraid of him. I assume afraid of what he could reveal. Now, you tell me, what does this guy have to say that threatens these people?
Well, it isn't cigarettes are bad for you.
Hardly new news.
No shit.
What's this?
what that is tobacco's standard defense. It's the we don't know limit. Addiction, we believe not. Disease, we don't know. We take a bunch of leaves, we roll them together, you smoke them. After that, you're on your own. We don't know.
So a couple resolutions to integrity problems in the movie. Brown and Williamson Tobacco Company should have shared with the public that cigarettes and nicotine are in fact an addictive substance and they should be used with caution. A side note on that is the executives at Brown and Williamson, they should have realized that even if they would have disclosed the harmful information about cigarettes, their tobacco sales would not have declined by much. People get so addicted and hooked onto things that they need their fix no matter what the repercussions are. The tobacco company would have still had their revenue, but they also would have had respect from consumers because they were being honest about the contents in their cigarettes. The second resolution, Brown and Williamson should have put the safety of others in front of their greed for more revenue. A side note on that is Brown and Williamson was not a company with integrity principles because they put others in harm for their own benefit. A business with integrity is going to be truthful to their customers and shareholders, whether it hurts or helps their profit in the end. And the third resolution, Brown and Williamson Tobacco Company should not have lied to Congress about cigarettes and tobacco not being addictive. If anything, they should have confessed the truth at this time to regain some integrity and respect. When you testify in a courtroom, you always have to raise your right hand and you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in front of the judge, the jury, and everybody in the courtroom. The executives at Brown and Williamson swore to tell the truth and then blatantly lied to the judge and everyone else in the courtroom about nicotine not being an addictive substance. This action was so unethical and the company lost their integrity after this point.
The second ethical dilemma, or the ethical theory that we're going to look at from the movie The Insider, is transparency. And the little graphic up in the right-hand corner basically says transparency is not a choice. Your only choice is, does it happen to you, or do you participate in it? So transparency is about the receiver having full access to information, and not only the information that the sender gives. So it's a matter of having an unbiased access an unbiased source of information. So all in all, transparency involves truth, honesty, and effective and/or open communication. Transparency is about being upfront and visible with whether it be actions taken or even words spoken. This can be large or small spectrum. And then transparency starts with the people and then translates to the business. So transparency needs to start on entry level, bottom, ground floor, and it will work its way up through the company, and the company will embrace the transparent culture as a whole. Transparent culture is a way business should function, is the way business should function. There is absolutely no reason that things should be hidden and or covered up, whether it's from the company to its employees or even the company to the general public or its customers. So looking at the transparency issues within a movie, from the beginning of the movie, transparency is compromised and is an issue, and it occurs throughout and does not go away. Whether it be from the Brown Williamson Tobacco Company, doesn't disclose the scope or the findings of the research that Jeffrey does while he is employed at the company, or it can even translate into Jeffrey not revealing everything that is going on to his wife Leanne. And this happens in many occurrences, but just 2 occurrences to look at was when he actually got fired from the tobacco company. They were all sitting at dinner, and Jeffrey got up because he needed or wanted something and said he was going to the store and kind of stormed off from the dinner table. And she followed him out to the driveway, and she glanced in his car and found all of his boxes from the office, and she basically questioned where the boxes were from, and he told her that they were from his office, and she asked why he'd be reading them now, and then that's when he revealed that he had gotten fired from Brown Williamson. And then if you fast forward a little bit towards the middle part of the movie, Jeffrey and Leanne are in New York at a very nice dinner with some of the CBS executives in regards to the 60 Minutes episode. And they were just casually talking, Jeffrey and the CBS reps, and they had mentioned something about recording tomorrow. And Leanne caught that and questioned it and didn't realize that Jeffrey was still going to go forward with the whole interview process and the airing of the interview, especially after all of the threats, whether it be death threats, harm threats, or the trespassing on the Whitelands property, etc., etc. She did not realize that he was going to keep moving forward and basically compromise the safety of him, her, and even their whole family and their 2 daughters. And then fast forward towards the end of the movie, CBS starts to reconsider airing the full interview with Jeffrey. One of the head corporate executives says, or they try and blame their second guessing on the fear of an impending multi-billion-dollar lawsuit if they air this full interview with Jeffrey. But what they fail to mention is that this lawsuit may hurt the executives within CBS and their personal interests in the sale of CBS to Westinghouse.
Sorry I work so much. Talking to somebody. I always feel like I'm on a thing.
Thank you for saying. You think we can talk about the taping? Our taping, just so we can get them away. Yeah, well, questions will go toward what work you did there, why you were fired, and others taping too.
What do you say?
Little interview.
Do you know what they did at?
Yeah, this is a preliminary. You didn't tell her we were taping. What do you think she was coming to New York for? Talk about it, think about it. I had a plan to ease her into the
The resolution for transparency, Brown and Williamson should have shared and not lied about the findings of Wigand's position there within the company. They hid part or most of anything that could harm their company, but was crucial to public health and knowledge. Jeffrey Wigand should have been completely honest with his wife and told her all of the aspects of the story or the situation that was at hand. Everything that he hid from her ultimately did or would have affected her. CBS executives should not have hidden or avoided the fact that they had an impending sale to Westinghouse. It wasn't just the imminent lawsuit they saw ahead, but rather its effect on the sale of the company.
Ethical theory number 3, fidelity. Fidelity is defined as faithfulness to a person, cause, or belief demonstrated by continuing loyalty and support. Ethical theory number 3, fidelity. 4 examples of fidelity conflicts found in the movie The Insider are as follows. 1. After many years in the industry, Lyle Bergman gained a reputation for himself amongst his witnesses of having a strong fidelity to them. Being one of his witnesses, Mr. Wigand should not be an exception. Was he? 2. As an investigative journalist, Lyle Bergman has a fidelity to the people to report groundbreaking news stories with accuracy and without bias. 3. Leanne Wigand, through her wedding vows, had a fidelity to her husband, Jeffrey Wigand. For better or worse, she was to remain by his side. After the threats to her family's welfare and the lack of transparency from her husband, this fidelity was put to the ultimate test. 4. Leanne Wigand, as a mother, had a fidelity to her daughters to protect and support them through all life endeavors. As a mother, could she willingly let her daughter's health and safety be jeopardized on a daily basis? A quote that we'd like to share with you all today comes from Lyle Bergman when stress was high and his fidelity was being tested. Quote, "I never left a source hang out to dry, ever. Abandoned. Not till right, expletive now. When I came on this job, I came with my word intact. I'm gonna leave with my word intact. Screw the rules of the game. unquote. Ethical theory number 3, fidelity resolutions. As previously stated, there are 4 fidelity conflicts that we're going to address. However, we're going to address them by combining them by character reference. So, the first resolution contains the first 2 conflicts that relate to Lau Bergman, and the second resolution contains the second 2 conflicts that relate to Leanne Wygand. First resolution. Lau Bergman's fidelity to Jeffrey Wygand and the people. Expose the truth to how CBS News in 60 Minutes was withholding crucial points of the interview to protect their own interests. Lau Bergman's fidelity toward Jeffrey Wygand was tested when the court system, CBS, and the Big 7 tobacco companies were coming after him. He promised to keep Wygand as safe as he could and to get his story out. He had never let a witness down and didn't intend to start. He also had a fidelity to the people, to get the story out with complete accuracy and without bias. To keep his fidelity to the people, he had to keep his fidelity toward Jeffrey Wygand. In this situation, Lau Bergman did in fact actually choose the right course of action by leaking information to the New York Times. He allowed them to ask questions and only clarified when their assumptions were wrong. This allowed them to take a story to the world about how 60 Minutes was censoring their interview with Wygand to protect interests of CBS News. Although Lau Bergman lost his job and broke his fidelity towards CBS News, it could be argued that he maintained an ethical character by maintaining a strong fidelity to Jeffrey Wygand and the people. He chose the good of all over the good for a few. Second resolution. Leanne Wygand's fidelity to Jeffrey Wygand and her daughters. Go into hiding with her daughters until the story was out in the public, and rejoin her husband when their safety was no longer in great jeopardy. Leanne Wygand's fidelity toward Jeffrey Wygand, her husband, was tested. It failed due to self and family preservation. She took her children's safety as a higher priority to the worldwide public welfare, forcing her to leave Jeffrey Wygand and escape to a safer place with their girls. Although she failed to maintain fidelity to her husband, she did maintain her fidelity to her girls. Leanne was put in a tough position. Would it have been more ethical for her to keep her fidelity with her husband or with her girls? There is no clear answer, as no one can know if the threats towards her family would have actually happened or not. When trying to find a resolution that doesn't compromise either fidelity, there's no solution that will make all parties completely happy, or that promises a happy ending. However, had she chosen to go into hiding with her girls until everything was out in the public, and rejoined with her husband afterward, she could have remained faithful to her husband and her daughters.
Conflicts of interest. So conflicts of interest can be defined as a situation in which a person is in a position or a situation that they can derive some sort of personal benefit from either the action or the decision that's made in their capacity or their position. Individuals basically put their personal interests or their gain above the interest of the employer or the company or anyone else or anything else for that matter. Individuals or executives within a company should first and foremost remember that they have a duty or a responsibility to the people, the company, or the people in general, public maybe, or the organization in which they serve or are employed. So looking further into conflicts of interest, we can look basically up at the right-hand corner and look at the little graphic that kind of explains what all conflicts of interest encompass. So as a whole, it encompasses ethics and integrity, which we actually touched on within this presentation, and also values. So possible ways that you're able to recognize conflicts of interest. There's 3 tests, so to speak, to uncover possible conflicts. The first one being the sniff test. So basically, does it smell right? Exactly how it sounds. What's your first instinct? Kind of what's your outside perspective on it? It's kind of just a really quick glance, just a really quick occurrence at the situation at hand. Next would be the trust test. So would others trust you and or your decision or judgment? And would they have confidence in the decision or the actions that you took, or that they knew you were in this position? And then finally, the headline test basically asks how easily or readily would you be able to defend yourself if, whether it was your position or your decision and or all of the above, be confronted by media or public scrutiny, meaning whether that means individuals, other companies, entities, the list goes on. Next, basically, we look at how to handle and or even prevent these happenings from occurring. There's 3 main ways to look at how to avoid conflicts of interest, or how to prevent these conflicts of interest, should I say. The first is avoid, second would be disclosure, and third would be recusal. So first and foremost, avoid. Completely try and avoid any situations or occurrences that would give rise to conflicts of interest, or even that could appear to give rise to conflicts of interest. Next would be disclose. So disclose a person's conflict of interest before they're allowed to serve in the position that they are, whether this be on a board or whether they, before any kind of actions taken. So whether they're engaging in important decision making, whatever it may be, this will help, whether it be other people, employees, directors, companies, entities, kind of understand the person and kind of their overall background and where they're coming from. And then finally, recusal. So if a person is in a position and they do have a conflict of interest, or a conflict of interest does arise, they can basically recuse themselves, meaning they can withdraw, whether it be from the decision at hand, the duty at hand, the position. Can stem from something as simple as a one-time decision to completely having to remove themselves from a position within a company. It can often be that they can remain on a board, but their participation may be very limited to different activities which they don't have a conflict.
Diversity in the workplace. According to the University of Oregon, diversity is defined as understanding that each individual is unique and recognizing our individual differences. These can be along the dimensions of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, age, physical abilities, religious beliefs, political beliefs, or other ideologies. Now, when discussing diversity in the workplace, oftentimes it is seen as a benefit. Most people don't think about what conflicts might arise from diversity or that it could possibly be a conflict. So first we'll start off with the benefits of diversity, as these are what people are more likely to know and think of. The first benefit. Diversity encourages creativity and ingenuity. When you have a group of people together that are diverse, from different cultures, different backgrounds, they're going to have different experiences. Therefore, they're going to have different things to add that other people within the group may have not had the knowledge to add, which will spark new ideas within the group. The second benefit is diversity promotes productivity. When you have a diverse group, you're promoting productivity because the group will be more capable to solve any problems that arise and will have a larger pool of knowledge to pull from to create a more efficient way of working to complete the task at hand. Third benefit, diversity promotes cultural understanding and acceptance. When you have a culturally diverse group of people together working toward the same end goal, eventually they will have to learn to work together. Otherwise, the task at hand will not be completed on time or at all. So at some level, people have to be willing to understand each other and accept them and their ideas so that the group can work together and complete the task at hand. Fourth benefit. Diversity creates a more well-rounded team with a broader skill set. As previously stated, when you have people from different backgrounds with different experiences, there will be a more broad pool of knowledge that they can pull from. And when you put them on a path to one common goal, instead of hindering the team, it actually benefits it, because if one person is lacking in one skill area, another person may be an expert and can step up and pick up that skill area so that the group can continue to complete the task at hand. Diversity issues in the workplace. First issue. Language barriers make it difficult to maintain open communication throughout the company. If you have a bunch of different workers that speak numerous different languages, and not necessarily always English, you're going to run across some communication issues. First being simply not being able to understand the other person. So you'll have to find someone else who knows both languages to translate. Second, translations aren't always completely equivalent to the intent of the speaker. So this could lead to someone becoming offended. It could cause confusion and could potentially put someone in harm's way, which can lead to high costs and many legal issues. Second issue. Creating new policies that do not interfere with cultural and religious beliefs. As a business person, it can be easy to believe that what is good for the business is good for everyone. However, that's not necessarily true. When bringing people into the workplace from different cultures and with different beliefs, from a company standpoint, or even a human standpoint, you don't want to infringe upon those beliefs, as it can lead to tension within the workplace, or depending on the severity, cause issues that force the embassy to get involved. Therefore, you have to create new policies with cultural and religious beliefs in mind, without hindering your business. You have to find a compromise between the two. Third issue. Defining a fine line between adhering to cultural differences and maintaining a productive and successful business. Now, we just discussed how creating new policies can be difficult, as you want to take into consideration other cultural and religious beliefs. However, at what point are you forced to no longer compromise or adhere to these beliefs because it is hindering the welfare of your business? Fourth issue. Implementing and enforcing a non-prejudice working environment can be difficult, as not everyone will be willing to put aside their prejudice for the good of the company. With a diverse group of people with diverse beliefs, you will run into the problem where some of these beliefs conflict. This will cause tension within the workplace, and as an employer, you'll have to put in place a way to dissipate these tensions. So as a proactive way of creating a non-prejudice working environment, companies put in an employee welfare program. This program could contain rewarding hard workers with a gift card, having a company picnic, a cookout, etc. The point is to unite the employees and create a more inclusive and welcoming environment by creating these bonds between the employees, as well as creating bonds between the employer and the employees. Fifth issue, maintaining proper paperwork for any foreign workers. Having people come from foreign countries to come work for a company is a process. You as a company and they as a future employee have to fill out paperwork for their work visa and will have to communicate with the embassy and the assigned embassy representative to ensure everything is in place for them to come and work for the company. And while at the company, to ensure they are being treated fairly. All this can be very costly with legal fees, paperwork fees, etc.
I decided to write about favoritism in the workplace because I think it is an ethical issue that most everybody has to deal with at some point in their life. And it really is an important thing that most people don't really realize, or they might overlook the issue. There's been a lot of favoritism since I've been working, and it just really isn't fair, and it really damages the workplace. So to start off, favoritism in the workplace is the preferential treatment of a person or group of people over other people. Favoritism has a negative effect on workplace morale. Favoritism can be illegal if the treatment is based upon racial preferences or in exchange for sexual favors. Favoritism in the workplace is often not related to job performance. Favoritism can be intentional as well as unintentional. Problems happen when attention, appreciation, and recognition are not equally given to all employees. When I was Googling for an image that showed favoritism, I really liked this one because it shows that even in a funny or cutesy way, you have 4 people there, and the person that is chosen by the big hand, which is the manager, has a smile on their face and has a crown like they're the prince or the princess, and everyone else has their head down, their eyes closed, bowing down, thinking, wow, I'm really not good enough. And that is really how favoritism in the workplace makes people feel. Dilemmas of workplace favoritism can be really damaging to a company. When management gives a promotion based on favoritism instead of performance, the company will not be able to attract the most qualified candidates for the job. Favoritism discourages excellent performance and encourages averageness. And I can really relate to this because I see so many people that used to be really hard workers only do the average or the minimum that's expected of them because they've been surpassed for promotions and things like that, because the manager's friend will get the promotion, or the manager's family member or distant, family member, friend, in that nature. Favoritism also compromises performance and quality of work. Favoritism is a poison to employee morale. It creates bitterness towards the management and towards the employee who's receiving the favoritism. And the way that favoritism can be fixed in my eyes is employers should treat all of their employees the same, and any promotion or special treatment should be based on job performance. Not only is this fair and the ethical thing to do, but it gives you some backtrack to say, I promoted Sue because she had all these great numbers for the year, she had good attendance, versus I promoted Karen because I've known Karen for a long time and I felt like she was ready for a promotion. On a side note from that, managers should really refrain from friendships within the workplace. From my own personal experience, I see managers favoring those who they are close with and have known for a long time. Sometimes these people are really good workers, but the others still see it as favoritism because of the relationship the manager and the worker have. My company seems to go with a lot of outside applicants for management positions, and I think it's a great way to cut down on favoritism. Many people disagree, but it allows for a new person to come in that doesn't have any prior relationships that'll hurt the company's work environment. And that's a big one in my job. Our store manager tends to choose outsiders for management positions, and a lot of people are bitter about that and don't like it. And I think it's a great idea because you're getting someone fresh that doesn't know anybody, doesn't have any relationships, and it seems like there's less drama, way less favoritism, and it just seems to work out better. Our discussion board questions. Question number 1. In the movie The Insider, a tobacco company named Brown & Williamson misled the public about the dangers of smoking tobacco. As a defense to the charge, the tobacco company claimed that people smoked tobacco willingly and that they should have known smoking was dangerous because of other people talking about the harm of tobacco. What do you think of this defense? Second question. Jeffrey Wigand was the Vice President of Research and Development at Brown & Williamson. Wigand was very upset at the fact that Brown & Williamson was lying to the public about the harmful substances in tobacco and knew he had to do something to bring the issue to light. Imagine if you had a job in which you earned great money, but you realize your employer was injuring people and you know they wouldn't stop unless the issue was brought to your employer's attention. What would you do? And the third question, while trying to expose the scope of research and findings, Jeffrey finds himself and his family's well-being threatened, whether by people trespassing at his home, suspicious phone calls, or even death threats to him, his wife, and his daughters. Put yourself in Jeffrey's shoes. How do you balance the moral obligation to informing the public of the harm your former company is causing and the commitment you have to your family and keeping them safe? And last but not least is our page of references. We look forward to discussing and talking about all of the different questions that we have asked in our discussion board. Thank you for watching.